Everybody, welcome live to the Jim Master Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Look who's joining us on the show. Lots of familiar faces. They are like family because they are from family. We're so excited to welcome Gary Frank, who of course played Willie Lawrence on the iconic series, and we're so glad to have him here. Elayne Heilveil is here as well. She played Nancy, and hopefully popping in soon is Louise Foley. She played Audrey Pfeiffer's Buddy's best friend. She might have run off with TJ Latimer. We will find out soon. And Carroll Newman is here too, producer on the series. And also Gary and Carroll happen to be husband and wife, if you didn't know that, since 1976. And our great friend, Carolyn Peterson, is joining us too from Night of Dreams. We're going to be talking about a very special event and an opportunity to meet the gang, including Kristy McNichol as well, who played Buddy Lawrence on Family. And we're so excited. As you guys know, we've talked about family a lot on this series, and I've talked about it a lot in my professional work on television and radio, because it is personally, for me and my family, one of our favorite television series of all time. So beautifully shot, so well written, all of it, from the theme song to the house that was used in Pasadena, to the acting, the producing, the storylines, truly epic. Do we have all the DVDs? Yes. Do we watch it when it's on the nostalgic channels? Yes. Did we watch it when it was on ABC? Of course. We're talking Family, one of the most iconic television series in television history. If you have never seen it, it was on from 1976 right into early 1980. I encourage you, if you can find the DVDs or check out the nostalgic channels, a lot of times they do weekends where they air it as well. It is well worth watching. It is an extraordinary series. Again, an Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg presentation, Mike Nichols production. Of course, these are all top names in the industry, and starred some of the most incredible talents too, new talents, as well as lots of veterans in the industry. And we're so excited to have an opportunity to talk with the gang joining us as they're getting ready also to celebrate pretty soon a milestone in terms of how many years. You know, a lot of the series these days are celebrating a lot of milestones. Little House on the Prairie is celebrating 50 years. We've had that gang with us as well. The Waltons, too, celebrating 50 years. I believe Gilligan's Island celebrating 60 years. It's so hard to believe these shows have been around that long, but we are so excited to talk about and reminisce, a little behind the scenes opportunities to chat with the gang too about this beloved series. Again, one of my personal favorites, created of course by J. Preston Allen. Matter of fact, you see all of that in the open to the series. Now, we're going to talk about this with the gang, but it was originally on ABC as a mini series. You may remember the open was a little different. The shots were different. Even the lighting in the house was a little bit darker. And then it was so well received that it became a television series on ABC. It was picked up. And of course, there's the iconic house, the house that I think if people didn't want to live in this house, they wanted to live in the Brady Bunch house. I think everybody on the show wanted to live with the Lawrence family just because it was so warm and loving. And of course, the Ford Maverick pulling out as Doug goes to work and then Kate goes back inside in that famous open. That house still exists in Pasadena, California. As a matter of fact, at the end of the show, I've got a little surprise, a little something bonus to show you, so stick around. And of course, the show starred some real veterans in the industry, the iconic, the extraordinary, and one of my favorite, and I think one of the most underrated actresses ever, the extraordinary Sada Thompson, who played Kate Lawrence, James Broderick, who played Doug Lawrence. And if you weren't aware, again, if this is all new to you, James Broderick, of course, a veteran of television, theater, and more, as Sada as well, is the dad of Matthew Broderick. Yes, who, of course, is married to Sarah Jessica Parker. That is Matthew's father, and he played Doug on the series. And, of course, Gary Frank was Willie Lawrence. And, boy, he had a lot of girlfriends on that show. He was very, very popular. And Elayne was the very first and original Nancy in the series, and she had an epic role in the very beginning in the first episodes of the miniseries. And if you didn't see that, where it starts out where she's, going to see her husband Jeff, and he happens to be tangled up with somebody else, and then she goes home to mom, to Sada, and it's one of the most powerful scenes and one of the most powerful ways to start a series. Kristy McNichol, of course, who we've seen in so many shows and movies. She played Buddy Lawrence. Later on, of course, Meredith Baxter Birney played Nancy. And here's a great shot of the original cast. And of course, John Rubinstein played Jeff Maitland, Nancy's husband and then ex-husband. And he also was responsible for the music for that iconic theme song. Da-na, 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 da-na. That is John who created that. And again, he was on various episodes throughout the years as Jeff Maitland. And again, we have some things we're going to show you. We're going to sprinkle in during the course of the actual program. And of course, this is a shot from a little bit later in the series. Quinn Cummings joined a little bit later in the series. You may remember her parents were killed in an accident, and the Lawrences, Doug and Kate, adopted her, and she didn't really want to do it in the beginning, but Sada and James worked her, and she said, yes, I want to be a part of the family. So many iconic scenes. We just pulled up a few. There's, of course, Louise Foley, who played Buddy's best friend, Audrey Pfeiffer. And then, of course, she was in videos as well. We're going to talk about that. Some really iconic stuff with the nickname Wish. And, of course, there's Gary during those years, and so many incredible scenes, too. One of my favorite episodes that Gary was in was this one. I mean, all of the episodes are fantastic, but this particular one, A Right and Proper Goodbye, they had so many extraordinary, legendary actors and actresses come through, and young budding talents too, like Helen Hunt was on the show as a friend of Buddy's, of hers as well in school. But Mildred Hadwick, who played Hattie, Sada Thompson, or Kate Lawrence's mom, in this particular episode where she's ill and she comes to say goodbye to the family, the interaction between Gary, Frank, and Mildred, or in this case, Willie and Hattie, is so touching. I tell you, I've watched it many times, and there's no way that you don't watch that particular episode and you don't have Kleenex. You could be the most stern person on the planet. The way it was written, the words and how they were said, especially when she comes into the room and she speaks to Willie while he's sitting on the bed, knowing that she's, not going to be around too much longer. It really is incredible. And things we've all, what they related to are things we all go through in our lives. And that's one of the things that made this series and continues to make this series so important and just stellar. So we got a lot of photos, we got a lot of cool things to show you. But before we bring the gang on, we just want to show you the original open, which was part of the miniseries, and then the later open. There were several versions of the open when the theme was revamped. Again, John Rubinstein, he's the one who created the music for the series. Here is the original open for family, and then we'll show the other one, and then the guests will be right here as part of our family on the Jim Masters Show. Take a look at this. Brings back memories, doesn't it? Well, joining us as we remember those memories is Gary Frank. Yes, we're so excited to have Gary with us. Carroll Newman is here with us as well. And Elayne Heilveil is here as well. And also joining us, our good friend Carolyn Peterson from Night of Dreams is joining us as well. Gang, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live series. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
The pleasure is all mine. How do you guys feel when you hear that music and you see those scenes and you see that open? It takes you back in time a little bit to a simpler time, but a beautiful time in your lives, huh?
Oh boy, does it ever. You know, that original theme, I personally, I just loved it, and I wish that they had kept it. However, the network, after the miniseries had aired, wanted something brighter. They wanted something lighter and more, I suppose, encouraging. John Rubinstein originally had assigned a different musical instrument for every character, and that's in the original theme song. But of course, that was Mike Nichols and Mark Rydell who directed the pilot. That was their choice as well. And of course, that is we attribute all the look of the show too. That the network wanted it brighter. Mark Rydell originally directed it as he would a feature film, dark, moody, dynamic in all kinds of ways. And we kept that dynamism, I suppose you could say, throughout the entire run of Family. But it wasn't that dark, moody kind of presentation. We had to brighten it up with the look of the film and the sound of the film. The feeling was still there, as evidenced by the stories that we addressed and wrote, and we changed the way, I believe, that family relationship shows were considered, and would go on to be like 30 something once and again. Those shows, and as a matter of fact, Ed Zwick and Marshall Herskowitz, who are responsible for those shows, got their start on Family. Ed Zwick was an executive story editor on the show, and he and Marshall had written an episode. Marshall Herskowitz directed an episode. They were there and got there. That was their very beginning, and they went on to great success. So we really launched a great many people in their careers, both in front of the camera and behind the camera.
And it was a show with the miniseries being first so well received that the network picked it up to become the series. It took a number of years for it to actually come to fruition, even before it was the miniseries, right? It was something that was sort of baking for a good long time before it actually hit the airwaves.
Yes, sir. And it was originally called The Best Years. Jay Preston Allen, who wrote the pilot, had titled it The Best Years. And as I think I mentioned before, it was set in Connecticut, this upper middle class family of Connecticut heritage. And then it was reset in Pasadena, California, by Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg and Mike Nichols. I can't remember the exact reasons why it was changed, but the tone of the show remained that from place to place. And so we grew from there. And it did take a while for us to be appreciated and accepted the way that we ultimately were. But as I said, we changed the ball game for every relationship show thereafter.
Absolutely, you sure did. And even before that, you were in the 1974 series Sons and Daughters, a drama about young people and a changing society. That was for you before Family, right, Gary?
Yes, it was. I was under contract to Universal Studios doing that particular series. Now, that ended after 9 episodes. It was wonderful to do. It was great. It was my first major starring role. And and because I was a Universal contract player, you weren't allowed to go and work anywhere else. You were under contract. You only could do Universal Studios shows. And I did a couple of them. One of them was Ironsides, if you remember that, with Ray.
Oh, yeah.
But I got an interview. My agent called me one day and said, you go to 20th Century Fox and you're going to see Mike Nichols and Mark Rydell. I thought, well, okay, that sounds terrific. So I made the trip to 20th Century Fox, and I went upstairs to Mike and Mark's office. I read for them. I talked a little bit, and I left. And that was the end of it. By the time I got home, there was a message on my answering machine to call my agent, and I did, and I got the job. And I said, wait a minute, I can't take this job. I'm under contract. And my agent said, didn't you hear? You've been dropped. So I got fired and hired in the same day. It was quite wonderful. And then I went on, and I was able to do the show, Family. It was great. It was wonderful.
When you saw those first scripts and the premise and the idea, and then realizing you're working with Sada Thompson and James Broderick and the whole group, what was that feeling like for you? And did you and the others have any idea that this series would become what it has for people?
Well, we had a table read shortly after we were all cast. And it was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, a place I had never been before. And we were invited there and ushered into a particular room where we met Sada Thompson. I met Sada Thompson then, James Broderick, and Elayne, and Kristy McNichol. And we sat down, and Mark Rydell, of course, was there, and Mike Nichols, I believe, was still in the room, and we read the script. And there was an electricity there. There was a kinship. There was a cohesion that was like a family. We were at the very beginnings of becoming a family. I was in awe of Sada. I was in awe of Jimmy. I was in awe of Elayne. And of all people, Kristy was just this little dynamo. She was full of energy and a talent that you couldn't teach her. She knew things way beyond her years. And she was just a child, just a little kid when we began the show. But this table read was quite wonderful, and it was magical to me. And we got to know each other even better thereafter. A little nervous, of course, during the first couple of episodes, finding our way, finding each other, becoming comfortable with each other, and then loving each other as the series went on. And indeed, we did love each other. We were a family off screen.
You could tell, you really, really felt that. And of course, working with the incomparable Sada Thompson and James Broderick, we were having a really lovely conversation with the gang before we went live, folks, about some of the folks that were part of the series. And Sada Thompson, like I said in the introduction, I think was one of the most underrated actresses. She really was very special in everything that she did. But when she took this role on, she really gave it something that resonated with people in such an extraordinary way. There was, like I said, she could melt butter with her eyes, the way she would lift that eyebrow, the beautiful sound of her melodic, warm voice, just was so perfectly suited. What was it like for you working with Sada?
Elayne.
Yes. Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, or did you grade?
Oh,
She froze.
she's
She got all choked up talking about Sada. There you are. Welcome back. It chokes you up talking about her, doesn't it?
No, she was. I think in my mind, I think she was more than what people saw. Actually, I mean, I think that the depth that she had was just, you felt it. It was yeah. She was lovely, absolutely lovely.
And she had a regalness to her,
Yes.
didn't she, Gary? But yet at the same time, she didn't necessarily take herself that seriously, but she did have this poise, this elegance about her.
Yes, indeed, she did. Now, you're absolutely right that she was underrated in television and in film because she was primarily a Broadway actress.
Yes.
She had a great reputation in the theater in New York. And she was quite nervous, actually, to be on television and to be in front of the camera. And she needed reassurance and comfort and sometimes cajoling to be more outward and to be more gregarious. And she had a gravitas about her that you just felt. You felt when you said hello to her and she answered you back. You felt it when she was in the makeup room getting made up and she was doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. You felt it when she had lunch and when you held her and embraced her in a scene. She was quite a woman. She was a dame. She truly was a dame. And she became that, as you might have mentioned, that iconic television mother. She was strict, loving, comforting, reassuring, reaffirming, and gracious to every member of the family. She was sometimes very strict with Willie, sometimes very strict with Buddy, sometimes with Nancy as well. But you always felt that love. And that was a tangible, palpable thing that I believe translated off screen as well.
Mm-hmm.
You felt the love for each other in that family. It was great. It was the time of my life, truly.
I don't doubt that. Absolutely. It's so beautiful to hear that. And I know everybody watching is so happy to hear that because you don't always hear that on shows and series or any work environment. And I think you could feel it coming through the screen, and to hear you capping it off saying it was what you saw is very beautiful. And of course, James Broderick as well was perfectly cast as Doug Lawrence. What was it like? Of course, left us way too soon. But what was it like working with James for all of you?
Elayne.
Yeah, well, he had that sparkle and glint and kind of humor going.
Irish wit, right?
Yes. It was just charming. I mean, you just wanted to hug him. He was adorable. Yeah.
He was. He was mischievous.
Yeah.
He was smart. Jimmy used to say that Doug Lawrence provided the material for those middle moments, that interstitial, so very important times, connecting one scene to another, one shift to another shift in the tone of the episode, of the story. And he was I just loved that man. I loved him, and I was so crushed when I learned that he had passed just shortly after we had finished. We finished shooting the show for the final episode. So you're right. He went too soon.
He went too soon. He had a warmth about him. I mean, the the outfits. My father dressed like that with the sweater and the shirt, and there were so many elements. A lot of people, I'm sure, identified with each of you as people in their own lives. That's how beautifully written and acted and produced the series was, because you could find characters in that series that are in your own life, in your own family, elements that might remind you of your own parents, if you were lucky enough to have a family setting like that. Elayne, of course, you played such an integral role in the earlier part of the series, and you were extraordinary on that very first episode. I mean, right out of the gate, they came right out with a very serious, dramatic storyline, and just you acted brilliantly. You took those words and just really made them your own, with a scene that could be very, very tough. I mean, really, you got incredibly emotional. I mean, Jeff, obviously, found in the hotel room with, I don't want to give too much away because people haven't seen this, but, it was really something, and you were brilliant at it. How did the opportunity come for you to be a part of this earlier part of this iconic, the miniseries part of it?
Well, I never wanted to do a series, but I found out, Mike Nichols was involved and Mark Rydell at that time, and I met them. And I remember Mike was sitting in the room with Mark when I came in, and it came down to, I was in this little waiting room with two other actresses. So you saw like who your competition was. And I guess it was a final round or something. And I walked in, and Mike just said, "Well, are you nervous?" And I said, "It's the strangest thing. I'm not nervous at all." And he said, "Oh yeah, I was just like that too. It's called," and there was some long like disease name. And he said, "Every time I went on with Elayne May, with Nichols and May,
Yeah.
it's like you're so nervous that you're numb. You can't feel anything." And so he was relating to me as, I felt a kinship, and he was so lovely. I auditioned for some film that he did before, and I was not right for it. And I told him, I said, "I'm actually not right for this part." And he said, "The only other person that's ever said that was Dustin Hoffman when he came in for The Graduate."
Right.
I didn't do the part. I really wasn't right for it, but he wrote me the most beautiful handwritten note after that about, how he felt about me. And so it was so special, and Mark was incredible. And he gave me the opportunity. It wasn't in the script. The opening kind of shot where the sequence was, where she sees
Jeff.
Jeff, John, yes, Jeff in the room with her friend, and walks out, and it was basically get in this sports car or something and just drive away. And that was it in the script. And I said to Mark, "Well, what if we stop the car and I roll up the window and then I scream and I start banging my hands on the wheel, and you won't hear me scream?" He said, "Okay, let's do it." And that was the opening. And then it was like you see me kind of with no sound screaming and banging on the wheel, and then it said family. And I thought, whoa, that was so cool.
Yeah.
But he, Mark was that wonderful kind of, director that allowed you to do stuff. And I remember I don't think I ever would have been cast if it was not for them, because I was never in a Spelling Goldberg show. I was not. They'd say, "Could you comb her hair?" And Mark would say, "Leave her hair alone, leave her alone." I think they just kind of, want too much reality in a way of people. But yeah, and there was afterwards, I think, I'm not sure that they really knew what to do with the character after the first episode, because we got some scripts and I said, well, what happened to the relationship? Did we get divorced? Did we, is this before or after? And they said, just do it. So I don't even know, when we shot the little pieces of the next few episodes for the miniseries, I had no idea what the relationship was, whether we were even still together or not. And they shot it out of order. So it was kind of a strange situation. It was like, that was a little challenging to have kind of Mark and, Mike gone. But I mean, I loved being with everybody and the situation. But that was it. It was just wonderful working with them.
And you probably, a million people through the years have probably always asked, since the series, then it became a series, and that Nancy character was still part of the series. Was it something that you were interested in doing, or you had other things, movies, other things that you wanted to do instead?
Well, I think Gary would remember this. I think there was a year between it being picked up, between the 5 episodes and then the series. Do you remember that, Gary?
That's right.
There was a whole year, and we were kind of on hold, I think, and couldn't quite do other things. And then they weren't they weren't really writing very much for the Nancy character at that point for the other 5. And I remember running into a writer sometimes later, and he said, I went in to pitch a story, and it was a Nancy story, but they said they didn't want a Nancy story. They wanted another character story. So they weren't kind of writing that. And I think there was also contractual stuff that was different. So it was kind of odd. I just, didn't feel like I had a place kind of in that, but I would have loved to have continued if circumstances were different. But that's what basically happened. I, on my end, was wanting to get out of a series, but I can't speak for their end. So,
the ways of television. When
I first did it, Mike or Mark, and I can't remember which one, said to me, your character is not going to be liked. You know that, right? And I always remembered that. And I thought it was interesting. It's like there's something about her that wasn't likable, And I tried to do something in one of the episodes, and the director of that episode said, I actually kind of cried. Sada was looking at me and talking to me in a certain way about the relationship. And I was feeling something, and I felt really bad, and I started to cry. And the director said, what are you doing? And I said, well, he said, don't do that. And it was the strangest thing. And he said, no, you can't do that. And I didn't quite know what was going on. And I went home, and I was at the time living with an actor, a very wonderful actor. And I said, I don't know what to do, because it's not what I would do. And he told me not to do it. And he said to me, well, you can always say, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And then when the camera's rolling, just do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that it would have the reaction that it had. So I did that. And I started to kind of be who I thought she would be. And in the middle of the shot, the director just said, what are you doing? Yelled. I never had that happen. And I didn't know. And he said, don't do that. And I never knew whether, what was kind of going on. It's many decades ago. Sada had worked with him in other things before, and it was a scene between Sada and I really don't know, but it was kind of challenging and kind of, so I'm subterranean things going on.
Exactly. So people probably would love to hear, after that opportunity to be a part of the earlier part of Family, what did you take on next? What came next for you?
Yeah. I don't remember but I did a lot of guest episodes, like you mentioned, Waltons and Rockfords, and I did tons of those and starred in different TV movies and things like that. And I can't remember where.
You were in Birds of Prey in 1973.
Yes.
And of course, the Rockford Files, which you were mentioning, they're going to be celebrating an anniversary, right?
50th wedding, the 50th
anniversary of the Rockford Files.
Yes,
you were a part of that.
Amazing. I was a part of that, and I played a blind person in the Waltons, and just a lot of suffering. I started out doing some comedy shows, and then they found out that I could cry, and then I was like, locked in mental institutions and all brain tumors and a lot of.
If you turn on television and watch a lot of the shows of the time, you're in them.
They would say, "Get the girl."
Elayne is a part of
"Get the girl"
television history. Get the girl. And this is sort of like a mini reunion too, because you and Gary and all, it's been a little bit since you saw each other, right?
But we didn't get close because we were on different sides. Yeah. But I remember you there, and as I said, Gary, he was like my sibling crush, I mean, he was like my dearest, adorable brother.
Yay. Oh, hi, Elayne.
Hi, sweetheart. I was so excited.
And that showed on film. I mean, that just was so strong.
Yeah, that would have. I just
really strong.
I just adored him and felt. You sometimes just feel a kinship with somebody.
Yes.
And I just adored him. So
that's the way it was between us. We did adore each other. Like I said, we talked on the phone every night after work. We decompressed from the day. So, yes, we were close.
So that was a sadness about not being able to, continue with that, with Gary and wonderful Sada and, and Jimmy and things like that.
With the whole series, exactly.
Yes.
But you're in it, and your mark is there. And you were brilliant in the scenes that you had, so you'll always be a part of the family, which is a beautiful thing, Elayne, right?
Thank you. Yes, of course.
It really, really is. Gary, Frank, I would imagine you must have got a lot of love letters and fan letters during that series, huh?
I don't remember if I did or not. Carol, did I?
I bet Carol remembers.
It was. Yeah, it's the teen magazines and Hunk of the Month, that kind of stuff, which is not Gary's mindset, but there was a lot of and swooning and that kind of stuff, and he just didn't sort of understand it,
No, I didn't. I would cringe at all that attention. I just didn't expect it at all. I was so concentrated on the actual work of doing the television series and being another person, that I didn't really, the attention from outside didn't affect me. I did a couple of those teen magazines, but I didn't pay any attention to them, really. I'll tell you something, Jim, about how we got cast. That Mark Rydell used to say to everyone that he cast people who needed the same things that the characters did. There was a sort of feeling that he got, and Mike Nichols was the same way, of knowing what the actor needed in his life. And for me, I needed a family. I needed the closeness that was there and going to be there in the Lawrence family. And they sensed that after just my reading and a few minutes of conversation. They found that I needed that very same thing, those very same things. They were right. I wanted a family. I wanted to be part of a warm, loving, reassuring family, a place that you could always return to. That house was the place that Willie would go home to for comfort, to be with everyone that he adored and loved, his own family. So that's how I believe I got cast, how they knew that I was going to be okay in the part playing Willie Lawrence.
And as I mentioned, you have a wonderful background. Not only were you in Sons and Daughters and, of course, in Family, but you appeared in the film Deadly Weapon, and you starred in 3 episodes of Remington Steele, episodes of The Streets of San Francisco, T.J. Hooker, Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, Hunter, Magnum P.I., Murder, She Wrote, L.A. Law, Hill Street Blues, Friday the 13th, the series, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, of course, as well, and lots of others. The Gift, opposite Glenn Ford, episodes of Matlock, and you know, very active during the years and the times, and which is fantastic. You turn the TV on, and Gary's in a lot of different. I've watched it too. Like, there he is in that. What? I forgot he was on that too, which was really cool. Of course, so known for Family, but you took on a lot of other great roles along the way.
Yes. Well, you mentioned Matlock, and I'll just say briefly that in the first episode I did of Matlock, I played a woman, and it was quite wonderful, actually. I went out with the costume designer on the show, and we went to all the best ladies' stores, all the best ladies' shops, and I got to pick out wonderful things, great suits, great skirts and blouses and shoes and so forth, to the point that I wanted to keep all those things. And I would go into makeup, and they'd put a blonde wig on me, and then lipstick and mascara. And I would look at myself in the mirror, and I didn't have a clue who that was. That was me. I had to be this.
You did it.
Person. But one of the shows that you didn't mention, though, Jim, was I did a 2-part episode of a series that you'll remember called Medical Center.
Oh, yes.
Chad Everett and James Daly.
My mother was in love with Chad Everett.
Oh, really? Well, there you are. They had a huge following. It was such a big, successful show. Yeah. And I got cast in to be Robert Reed's son. And the story centered on Robert Reed having a sex change operation, and how it had not ever been done before in that hospital, and how controversial it was. And I always felt that Robert was so brave to do that thing, to way ahead of time. That was in 1975, I think it was, and it was so ahead of its time, the storyline and so forth. But Bob was so wonderful as that character. He was just magnificent. He was magnetic. He was brave, as I said, courageous and bold.
Absolutely.
And, he was just a fabulous person. I always will remember him and remember those episodes. So
yeah,
I did have an interesting career that way, playing different characters. It was
absolutely right. And Carroll Newman, of course, very involved in the series and a lot of other productions too. And Carroll and Gary are husband and wife, and married since 1976, right?
Yeah,
truly. Yeah,
48
years.
Congratulations. And producer, production manager, known, of course, for Family, but also Wildflower and Suddy and Simpson. And how did you get into the world of production and producing, and how did Family come your way, Carroll?
Well, I'll make it condense the story. My family, on my father's side, they're all in the business. My father,
your brother's Randy, of course.
My cousin, he's my cousin.
Cousin, that's right. Cousin, yeah.
And my dad was Lionel Newman, and he was president of 20th Century Fox Music. And his older brother, Alfred Newman, was a composer, and great composer. And my dad worked under him, and then took over the studio. And another uncle, Abel Newman, who was a composer, and all the brothers on the Newmans, on my dad's family, were in the business in some sort. And I graduated from Palisades High School and really didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. And my dad got me a job working at Fox one summer. And after that, I just knew I had no desire to be in school. I just wanted to absorb everything and learn. So I did. I worked in every department at Fox and learned everything there was to learn about, making films and television. And from there, just, one thing led to the other. And I ended up working on the Waltons when it started up. And Carroll and Nigel McKean Carroll was a story editor, and Nigel, they wrote scripts for the Waltons, and we became best friends. And they left, and and I finally left the Waltons, and I was just sitting on the beach, and they called me and said, we're going to do a series called Family, and we don't know anything about producing. Do you want to come and work with us? And I said, sure. So it just started that way. And I started out as the associate producer with them, and we were best friends, and Gary and I were married in their home, and they were just total mentors to me. And so it just went from there. And then that led, to I ended up having my own production company and started making television movies for Lifetime after Family, and which when it first started up, and gave Diane Keaton her first directing job. And so I had a lot of interesting and worked with a lot of wonderful people. But it all started because my dad was head of music, got me a job. From that point, nepotism meant nothing. I had to do it myself.
You do it yourself, and what a beautiful job too. I had heard I read something several years ago. Aaron Spelling, of course, heavily involved in this, and he and Leonard Goldberg at the time, prolific producers of so much television. And Norman Lear, they were just pumping out all these great shows and series. And I think I read something somewhere when there was this whole big depiction of how Family came about and how long it took to get it on air and everything, that it was one of, he was proud of all of his shows, but it was one of, if not the show that he was the most proud of all the shows that he did and was involved in, was Family. And I was so happy to hear that. Had you heard that over the years?
Yes. Well, yes. Yes, Aaron was absolutely proud of it, but it was really Leonard's show. So I have to, when Aaron was asked about it, because it was really the only serious show he ever did. It was really about drama.
Right.
But they split up the shows and Aaron, this was Leonard's show all the way.
Yeah. And to have Mike Nichols involved too.
That's our dog. You want to turn your volume off, darling? Here's
John wrote the theme song too, which was something, huh?
Yes, he was wonderful. He got very involved in the show and was there for us all the way through the end. The way it began, Jim, was Leonard and Aaron they were in Aaron Spelling's kitchen, of all places, early on in their careers. And they both said to each other, what I'd like to do is is a show about a family. And they both agreed that both of them wanted to do a show about a family, about the closeness. And they talked to each other about their own families. And so they pitched the idea about 10 years before Family got on the air to ABC. And ABC said, nah, we don't want anything like that from the two of you. You just continue to do, the kind of shows that you do. And so it was on the back burner. And I believe J. Preston Allen had already written the script. And that's the script and story that they had taken to the network at the time. Said, no. Years later, Mike Nichols, who was a very close friend of J. Preston Allen's, got involved with the show. And they went back, both Jay and Mike, to Aaron and Lynn and said, what about this show? Why don't we do something with it? It's a great script. It's a great story. Great people involved. Jay, Mike, Leonard, Aaron. Let's take it to the network again. They did. And lo and behold, they said yes this time. And that's when it was originally titled, as I said, The Best Years. And they got this go-ahead for a pilot. And that's when Elayne and I got cast originally in the show, and Sada and Jimmy and Kristy and John, who made a deal to play Nancy's husband and also write the theme. And I mentioned before that you wrote this wonderful, moody, beautiful theme originally that was sort of the tone and tenor of the show. And so, as Elayne said, we did the pilot, and then we waited a year for them to, the network to say, yes, go ahead and do some episodes. And it was literally from March of 1975, you check me on this, Elayne, to November or December of that year, that same year, 1975, that we waited for some sort of word that they either wanted us or didn't want us. Well, lo and behold, they did want us. They wanted us for only 6 episodes, a miniseries, and we did those episodes. They were what the creator and Mike Nichols and Mark Rydell had foreseen, and wanted the show to be. And they were terrific episodes we did, as you mentioned, with Mildred Natwick. And it was just great. Sada was fabulous in the role. And Jimmy was just equally as fabulous in the role, as was Elayne and Kristy. And we won the hearts of America, and also so that the network couldn't say no. They just couldn't say no to us and gave us a pickup for what was technically the second season of the show, the second season being all 22 episodes. And we went on from there.
I just want to add one thing. Gary reminded me a story about Len and Aaron at the kitchen table. This was really important to Aaron because of his childhood. He came from nothing, and he didn't have a good childhood. And I do remember the story. He really wanted to do something about a real family, that could really raise children and have a happy life. So it was that was the importance to him.
Yes. Again, I'm sorry, Jim, you go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to say that during the course of the series, you had some extraordinary actors and actors of note who have actors and actresses who joined you guys. Henry Fonda one time played Doug's father, which was an icon, and Mildred, of course, too. That I have to tell you, Gary, that is one of the most definitive portrayals I've ever seen of a family dealing with the loss of a loved one, and the dynamic between Sada, Kate, and her mom, and a little of that back and forth, but still the love underneath. I mean, that scene when Kate and Hattie, Sada and Mildred are on the wraparound picnic table in the backyard with the big oak tree, and she realizes that Hattie, her mom, came from the farm not just for a visit, but to say goodbye. And the music sweeps in, the camera angles, the actual real tears you saw in Sada Thompson's eyes, and you saw it in Mildred's eyes. And then when she says to Sada, when Mildred says to Sada, I knew it would be the hardest for Willie. I thought I was hearing a line that has been said to me, being that kind of, I identified with the Willie character a lot, creative and the warmth and the empathy. And I just have watched that over and over, and we've played it again and again for family. And they're like, my God, she's talking about you and the relationship you had with Hattie, and not wanting to lose her, and the idea of, the farm. And then when she comes into your room and you're on the bed and she's telling you what's going to happen, that, she is going to pass away, and she loved your grandfather and loved, everybody, and that Kate should have been more like the grandfather than her, or, and your reaction and the tears in your eyes and hers. And then when she gets up and she puts her hand on your face and just tells you how she knows that you're going to be overwhelmed by her loss, and she can't mourn for you, and how she loves you so much as she knows you love her.
Yeah.
That's one of the most touching scenes and episodes on television. And I've seen, working in TV too, I've seen so many episodes, and there's a lot of beautiful treatments about the passing of somebody you care about. But the way it was done, the way it was shot, the way the music was used, you, her, everybody, I gotta tell you, Gary, it really was extraordinary. What was that like? It seemed like everybody felt that episode when you guys were doing it. A Right and Proper Goodbye. Perfect title too.
Yeah. It was the first time that Gary Frank had dealt with the passing of a loved one. And I say that because it was truly an experience that I shared with Willie, and Mildred was that person that I was going to lose. Gary Frank was going to lose, and that Willie was going to lose. And it was easy to weep in that scene, when she was talking to Willie. It was easy to weep, and it was easy to start mourning and wishing it was never going to happen, wishing that you weren't there, wishing that everything would just go away and Hattie would be fine. It affected me as an actor as much as it affected Willie Lawrence. It was that kind of a scene. We had a few like that on Family. But that was the first that we had that I believe affected Willie Lawrence in that way, in that emotional depth and intensity. And it was wonderful to have those kinds of moments, Jim, that were really sweet.
Absolutely. And I mentioned Henry Fonda being with all of you as well, and a young Helen Hunt was also on the series. You had a lot of people come through. Of course, Willie Ames, T.J. Latimer, who then went on to Eight Is Enough, and a lot of other Charles in Charge and other series and shows as well, which was quite extraordinary. And then, of course, there's the Pinto wagon. The famous, they must have sold a lot that year. You got to drive that a lot, taking Buddy around and picking up Dad from the law office and so much more. That car is iconic, Gary.
Yes. I wish I had that car today. It was quite an experience to drive that car. It was part of the family. It was a character in the show. It was a real trip to drive it and to go around picking up Buddy from school and taking her to the dentist, and it was great freedom too for Willie Lawrence. I remember when I first got my driver's license and I bought my first car for $200, and when I got on the open road, it was this sense of freedom that I had never felt before. And I think Willie felt that same sense of freedom, that he was finally able to go where he wanted to go, to be where he needed to be, and to actually experience the world with the help of those four wheels.
I tell you. And if those wheels could talk. And of course, we mentioned it before, the iconic house that they selected, beautiful house, and it's a real house in Pasadena, and you guys got to access the exterior shots, the backyard, the front, full use of the exterior. That house is quite iconic, isn't it? And I've learned that it's been used for other things beyond family, I think a movie or two, but of course, always well known for family.
I think we were the first to use that house on film. Carroll could check me on that.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we were the first. And when we did the pilot, we actually shot it inside. We weren't on a sound stage. We shot that show.
It was inside.
Yes, sir.
It's part of it.
In the house itself.
Wow.
And it as I say, I keep repeating that it was a character itself in the show. That's where Willie was married, in the front yard of that.
Yes. Yes.
That's where, in the backyard, that infamous guest house
The
was.
guest house.
Where Nancy had so many trysts, I suppose, and where Willie had even more women in his life. And I tell you, I think he should have died by the time he was 19. He had so many. But you're right. It was an important and integral part of every single episode. People would see that house and immediately feel reassured. I use that word a great deal, but it felt like home to so many people.
Even some of the casts or the performers themselves, you would always have these kids and neighbors and people all who wanted to sort of live there. Wasn't there the episode Alvin, a friend of Buddy's, his family life wasn't so great, and he kept coming by, and then Nancy got irritated. What are you doing? You don't live here. You're not part of our family. And say to Nancy, stop it. And you had a lot of people. Like I said, people either wanted to live in that house or the Brady Bunch house. I mean,
Right.
and the setting, and then the dog barking in the background too. And Carroll had a little story about that. You would hear the dog barking in the background because they're in a neighborhood. They're in Pasadena, is where that was filmed. But a famous dog always barking in the outdoor shots, right? Or when the windows were open in the evening.
Right. We on the dubbing stage, when we first started doing it, I said we have to have a dog barking, and we just had this dog, and it was forever cute as the family dog. So even on other productions, they'd use the family dog, for a sound effect. But we always, the dog had to be barking somewhere. In the
Had to be barking.
Yeah.
Now the series itself, did very well. But then the network started to shift it around, right? And when the network starts to do that, then things the audience starts to say, okay, where is it? What happened to it? I can't find it. Would you say that the network was fully behind it throughout the entire series, or not so much? And if not, that would come to the surprise of many, because it was such a beautiful series.
No, the network was not behind us, unfortunately.
Amazing.
We got no promotion. We got no any kind of special attention to the show. They didn't know what to do with this. We were doing stories that weren't done anyplace else on the network or the networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and they were a bit shy of all of the things that we did about the show, and so we didn't get support. And you're right, indeed. In our last season, they were moving us everywhere. And you're right, the audience that we had was not able to find us. And as a consequence, then they just simply stopped watching. And when they stopped watching, we were unfortunately taken off the air.
The one reason they stopped watching is because many of them, we got letters to this effect, is that they had changed like their church nights, whatever extra activities they did at church, like, it was a Thursday night or something. And so they would change it to other nights so they could be home to watch family. And then when they started changing it again, they couldn't adjust themselves. It really showed how they wanted to watch the show because they were changing outside activities to see it.
Priscilla, of course, who was Elaine Hogan next door. She was a wonderful actress, and I believe, didn't she also play Lou Grant's mother at Asner's? His wife on Lou Grant well on CBS.
Yeah.
The episodes dealt with so many things that we deal with in our lives. Was there ever any resistance in reference to a particular episode? Kate finding out that she's pregnant, or dealing Monday is Forever, her breast cancer scare, or was there ever any resistance, or were they like, roll with it? These are incredible episodes. They mean a great deal.
Well, we did an episode, as a matter of fact, about a friend of Willie's by the name of Zeke.
Yes, right.
Zeke was exploring himself sexually and found that he was indeed gay. He was homosexual. And Willie had great trouble accepting that. And he was very angry at Zeke because he didn't, not that he was gay, but because Zeke had not confided in his best friend, Willie Lawrence, the truth. And it was a groundbreaking episode, I must say, dealing with that subject. And the network was so adamant about not showing it, about not doing it. And again, Leonard Goldberg really championed us. And he championed that particular show, as did Carroll and Nigel McKeon, the producer and executive story editor of the show. They would go to the network and say, no, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it this way. And if you don't like it, then, that's too bad. And we did it our way. We did that show the way we wanted to do it. And it was a tough sell, but it was a great episode. It was a wonderful episode. And as a matter of fact, the actor who played Zeke, Brian Byers, did a magnificent job. He really did. So hats off to him. And I can't remember who directed it, but whoever directed it did a great job as well. And we got a lot of letters. We got a great deal of attention and letters support. And that's our dog again. And
even support from the dog.
Yes, yeah. So that is an episode as an example of how the network didn't support us, didn't champion us, and treated us badly, I believe. in the final.
Happened a second time. We did an episode called "We Love You, Miss Jessup."
Yes, right. About Buddy's teacher.
Yeah, Blair Brown playing the teacher, and this time it was a senator, and a U.S. senator that got into it, and letters were written from his constituencies saying, "No, you can't do this," and that because it was about teachers,
Right.
and so it was really so sorry.
Something, yeah.
And finally, they did air it. The network stood up for us on this one, but the government got into it. It was
That's amazing. That's something. I want to let everybody know that as we're talking about all of this, and you're getting a chance to reminisce with us here with these fabulous folks that you've seen on your television, and hopefully at some point we'll have Audrey Pfeiffer, who's probably out having a hamburger on her banana seat bike with TJ Latimer. Wait till Buddy finds out. Louise Foley, of course, who played Audrey Pfeiffer. We're hoping to have her with us, but I think she might have got called away. There she is. You remember Audrey, right?
Sure.
They were always telling each other's secrets. There's a wonderful event that's happening, and Carolyn has put it together, and she's a dear friend of our show, and she's a sweetheart of a person. And we wanted to get you to go down memory lane a little bit with us with these fabulous folks from Family and lots of other things, and then tell you about this great event that's coming up that has been put together to give you an opportunity not only to reminisce about some of your favorite television series and stars, but also have an opportunity to meet them. And it also helps a very special cause as well. And there it is on the screen. Believe it or not, folks, there's a family TV show reunion. Carolyn, tell us all about it. It's really something very special. And when you and I had talked about it, I said, let's definitely get them on and let's promote it. I wanted to chat with all of them because I'm a big fan of all of them in the series, but this is something very special, near and dear to your heart, Carolyn.
It is. First of all, I loved this show, and I was one of those who followed it around.
Oh, it's terrific, isn't it?
The time, of course, I watched it, and I had a little crush on Willie. Yes, I didn't. So, so I had this idea. We did this last year, wanted to do it again this year, of getting the cast together. And my company, Night of Dreams, does it a little bit differently than the autograph shows. I give people a chance to really get to mix and mingle and chat with the stars of the show. So we have the cocktail hour. There's plenty of time for everyone to have time to talk with everyone. We have dinner, we have cocktails, we have dessert, we have a Q&A, we might have some music and some entertainment. You can sit at the table with them and have dinner with them. Kristy will be there. Louise,
Kristy
even
McNichol.
though she show up right now, she will be there.
Louise, yeah.
Yep, Louise. And this is the first time I believe since the show ended that they will unite. So it will be a huge to see Buddy and Audrey get together again. So this is on October 20th. It's in Long Beach. It's at a beautiful venue called The Reef. It's on the marina in Long Beach. And anyone who has not purchased a ticket yet, just go to my website, nightofdreams.com, and click on the link and purchase your ticket. I have 2-for-1s going on right now. So,
being you and I are both originally from the New York area,
yes,
from out east on Long
Island.
Island.
Yeah.
So we would have watched Family on WABC Channel 7 out of New York.
Correct.
And all these great shows. It's got to be, and I think I mentioned this too when we were on with the Desilu kids, it's got to be really cool for you, Carolyn, to put this together, but also you're reliving elements of your own childhood and teen years, with these fabulous folks that you have always admired and watched on these epic series, right, Carolyn?
Yes, that's a big part of why I do what I do. It's to make my own dream come true, not just everybody else's dreams come true. So I pick those shows or those performers that meant so much to me personally, because I feel like if it meant that much to me, it's going to mean that much to other people. So I've put together, Starsky and Hutch, Chips. I'll be doing a Chips event in November. Little House on the Prairie. I did a karaoke night with Mickey Dolenz because he was my favorite monkey. So why not? So, and then I loved the show Family, and so I just get this idea in my head, and I'm like, okay, just start reaching out to people and see if you can make it happen. So,
and it must be great for you guys to be a part of that, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a nice event.
Nice to meet people who love the show. There is a family Facebook page, and
there is.
Yes, and they're just wonderful people, and so many of those folks come to see us at these events, and it's just a beautiful thing, Jim. They're so gracious, so courteous, and they're so appreciative that we are there to meet and greet them and talk with them, and I don't take that for granted at all. I'm very grateful for their attention and they do love us. They love the characters, I should say, and the show itself. And they make themselves vulnerable to us. And it's just a beautiful experience. I did it last year. I'm grateful we're doing it again this year. And Carolyn has put together this fabulous night. It truly is a night of dreams. It's just
really
wonderful. So
it is wonderful.
And fingers crossed we can do it on the 50th anniversary.
Yes.
Show, which is 76.
That would be
76, right? So 2026. Yeah.
Yeah, which will be here before you know it, right?
Yeah.
Hard to believe when you look at it.
I know.
Something we definitely got to mention, that a real special thing that happened for you during the series, Gary, and for Kristy, and I believe for Sada Thompson as well, is garnering the Emmy for the outstanding performances on Family. What was that like for you? And you were there's footage clips on YouTube where you can see Sada elegantly going up to get hers. Henry Winkler hands it to her. You guys, there was something there that really was a beautiful thing to watch between you and Kristy McNichol, Buddy and Willie. That was fabulous on the show, but just seemed so real even beyond the show. And you can see the love there where you get your Emmys. Congratulations, all these years later, I get a chance to tell you this, but must have been really very special, not only to get one yourself, but to see Kristy and Sada get theirs as well. What was that like for you, Gary?
Well, I'll tell you. Yes, indeed. Kristy and I adored each other. I was her big brother. But that particular night, I was one of, I think, 5 other nominees, all of whom I was a big fan of. And they were all older actors. And I sometimes think that they gave me the Emmy Award because I was the only one who could make it up the stairs. I was nominated. Kristy was nominated. Sada was nominated, and the show was nominated. Now, my particular category came up first, and I knew there was no way I was going to win. One of these other wonderful actors was going up there and taking home the trophy. And I was so sure of that I made a bet with Carol McKeon that I wouldn't win, and I bet $50 that I was not going to win this thing. And we went to the Emmy Awards, and I just in case, I had a check in my pocket for $50. And they read off the nominees, and I can't remember who presented me with the trophy, but they read off all the nominees, and I was ready to applaud whomever won. whomever I should say earned the award, because you don't really win it, you earn it.
Right.
And my category came up first, and when they read off my name, I was absolutely shocked, absolutely just a deer caught in headlights. But I did have the wherewithal, and Carol McKeon and her husband Nigel McKeon were sitting right behind Carol and I. And I got up, reached in my pocket, turned around, and gave Carol McKeon that check. I had lost the bet, and I went up the steps, and they gave me this trophy, and I had no idea what to say, and I was just so scared, so terrified of being there and being up there and looking out at this vast audience. I could barely speak, and I can't remember honestly, Jim, what I did say, but I hope I thanked the right people. I won't know unless I look back on the show itself, and I won't do that. I won't watch myself. So I did. I got that award, and then it came time for Kristy, and she was nominated with another group of illustrious nominees, and lo and behold, she won. And we thought at that time, well, it's going to be a sweep. We're all going to win. So she won, went up on stage and collected her trophy. And I don't think that she knew what to say either. She was as surprised as I was. And she was very gracious and so forth. And then it came time for Sada's category to be presented a trophy. And I was sure that she was going to win because she was so good, so wonderful, and I knew that she had earned that Emmy award. And yet, I was wrong. She didn't win, and I was heartbroken for her, heartbroken. And then when the show came up for its Emmy, Best Dramatic television series, our television series, I thought, well, this is a shoo-in. If they gave Kristy an Emmy and they gave me an Emmy and they nominated Sada, that they had to love the show so much, the folks who present the Emmys, they had to love the show so much that they would give our show an Emmy award for being as good as we were. And we didn't win. We didn't win, and I was so heartbroken again for the fact that the show didn't take home an Emmy award. So, but nevertheless, Kristy and I did earn the Emmy award that evening, and it was a memorable night, a memorable event, and I think about it sometimes, and sometimes I even look at the Emmy award, which is in Carol's office, and I always I'm forever grateful for the honor of being present with that award. Can you stop that? Maybe you should mute that, Carol. Mute yourself.
We were talking before you went live. I just want to remind everybody that this really is an extraordinary event you're going to want to be at if you're a fan of classic television, beautifully prepared, produced, acted, written, musically scored television, series like Family, Night of Dreams, nightofdreams.com. You got to be there. Tell your friends, scoop up remaining tickets. It is going fast. You get a chance to meet these fine folks, including Kristy McNichol, who played Willie Lawrence, and of course Louise Foley, who is stuck in traffic, I believe, at the moment, who played Audrey Pfeiffer, or again, she's out with TJ Latimer, and you get a chance to be a part of something very, very special. A lot of hard work behind the scenes happens, as Carolyn knows, to put something like that together, and it's done out of love. And we love having her here, sharing that with all of you and with all of us as well. One of the things, I mentioned, Gary, that episode, and so many fabulous episodes, The Right and Proper Goodbye. The series itself never really had a right and proper goodbye as well, right?
No, we never had closure. We weren't allowed the dignity and grace of saying so long. It was such a terrible thing that we had been moved around so much that we lost our audience. But it was even worse that they took us off the air and didn't allow us to say goodbye, to say, here we go, and thank you so much for the adventure. It was grand. It was great. And I always lament that we weren't allowed to have that. It wasn't fair. I'll tell you, Jim, it wasn't fair. It wasn't nice. We didn't, as you say, get a right and proper goodbye.
Quinn Cummings joined as well, and that was an interesting added mix to it, and it created a new dynamic for the series as well. And she took on that role of Annie beautifully with her wisecracks and her intelligent witticisms. It was a great role for her, huh?
Boy, was it ever. She had come off being nominated for an Oscar for her work in The Goodbye Girl.
Right.
Richard Dreyfuss and Marsha Mason. And so she was a hot ticket, boy, when we got her. And we felt privileged to have her there. And you're right. She had a wit and a wisdom, again, beyond her years, like Kristy. She was a smart, elegant, eloquent young woman, young kid, I should say. She was a kid when she came to us. And she was a pistol, I'll tell you that. She was great on camera. And we all gained because of her presence on the show. It was a win-win situation for us.
And there was talk of a reunion back in 1988 to sort of continue the story a little bit with James Broderick, who had unfortunately and sadly passed away not long after Family had wrapped up, passing away of cancer at a very young age. I believe it was like 55 years old. But in 88, you were going to address his passing, incorporate that into the storyline, and have everybody together and even use the house again. And that was a real dream. Pretty much wanted to get that going and on board, right, gang?
Truly. We had this beautiful script written by Carroll Newman about dealing with, indeed, Doug's passing, coinciding with Jimmy's passing, and Kate's step into another section of her life, another part of her life, by getting married again, remarrying, and how everyone was reacting to that. I can't remember the more specifics about it, but it was a beautiful script. I think in the end, we all supported Kate in this next phase of her life, while lamenting that our father wasn't there, her husband. And I wish that we had done it. I truly do. But again, there were the forces that were, we just were doomed from the beginning. There was
a writer's strike too at the time, right?
Yes, there was the writer's strike, and there were other considerations that availabilities, and we just weren't able to get it off the ground, unfortunately.
I do remember the first go around that there was no promotion even for the. I remember somebody saying it was almost like they didn't know what kind of show it was, and they said we want the audience to find us. So they didn't want to put it in people's faces. So it was it came on the air with very little, kind of bells and whistles. And it sounds like it kind of continued in that way. I just thought it was interesting It was like a counter idea of we don't want to put it in anybody's face, so let them find you, because we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It was Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
We built it, and they did come. So
Yep.
it was.
Yeah. Did you guys over the years stay in touch with Matthew Broderick, James' son? Did you have interactions with him over the years, with his dad being so iconic in that series, such an integral part of that beloved series?
Yes, a bit. I'll tell you, Jim, he would come every summer out to visit and be with his dad for a period of time. And, gosh, he must have been like 13 or 14 when he first came out, and we were all together that way. And, gosh, I'll tell you, back in those days, I was a smoker. I smoked cigarettes, and I taught Matthew how to light a match on his zipper, of all things. I taught him how to do this, and he thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And so, fade out, fade in. When we came back from our hiatus, Jimmy said to me, "Oh, I hate you, man. You are the worst person in the world." I said, "Why?" He said, "Yeah, you taught Matthew how to light a match on his zipper, and he almost burnt down our apartment." And oh God, what a thing to have happen! Matthew, you knew from the beginning that Matthew was destined for great things. When he was just a kid, a teenager, he was cast in the Harvey Fierstein play Torch Song Trilogy, and he was a star from that point on. And his dad told him to aspire to be a star, to aspire to be that leading actor that he always has been. And so it was a treat and a privilege to be around Jimmy and Matthew when they were together. And they loved each other so much. They adored each other.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. And I was so shattered when Jimmy passed away. And I felt so badly for Matthew and his sisters and for Jimmy's wife, Patsy. It was just a huge loss for all of us, the Lawrence family and the Broderick family.
And in 2011, Sada Thompson passed in Danbury, Connecticut, and she lived in Southbury with her husband, and had a nice, quiet, New England life from that point forward, but always so active in so many different things. Did you guys stay in touch with Sada Thompson over the years, even post-family and other things?
I wish I had. I'll tell you, I'll confess. I wish that I had, because, again, Jimmy was not the only person that I loved. I loved Sada. I respected her. I always felt it was a privilege to be around her. She was, as I said before, she had a gravitas about her. And I felt privileged because I was intimate with her. She loved us all, and we were intimate together in a wonderful way. And I should have stayed in touch with her, and I plead guilty. I didn't. And then when there was a talk of doing this television series again, I had written a script, and I had taken it to Leonard Goldberg and to Mark Rydell, and I called Sada and said, "There's this possibility we could do this. Would you like to be involved as well?" And she said, "Oh yes, of course I would. Thank you. That would be just grand." It didn't get off the ground, unfortunately, and I didn't speak with Sada again. And then fade out, fade in once more. She passed away, and all my opportunities to be closer with her were gone. And I lament that very much. I'm so sorry about that.
Thanks for sharing that. And she's with us, of course, in spirit and in so many ways. A couple people were asking, did you write a sequel in the 2000s, Gary?
Yes, I did. I wrote a screenplay, a teleplay that I titled Second Family, which would have been a look at where the characters were then, how they had evolved, where they were in their lives at that point. And so, as I said, Carroll and I partnered with Leonard Goldberg and Mark Rydell. And we took it to the network, to ABC, thinking that, well, of course, this is the network we had been on originally. There would certainly be some interest in the show there. And we went in and we pitched the show. And they said to us, listen, we can't do it now. We are having such trouble keeping our own shows dealing with families on the air now. And what they were referring to was 30-something and Once and Again. And they wanted very much to have those shows continue to be successful. And they just didn't have room for the Lawrence family. Well, I was shattered. Sada was shattered. Leonard was terribly shattered because he had had such a great partnership with ABC over the years. And Mark felt terribly about it as well. And it fell by the wayside, Jim. I was just stricken that it had not gone further.
Yeah, I can only imagine how beautiful that would have been. Again, so many fabulous episodes. I remember the one where the house was broken into and the cat's licking the milk on the floor, and Willie accidentally left the back door unlocked, and Doug is angry at him. Oh, he's never doing it. He's always up there on the typewriter looking at the ceiling. But then you guys are eating a burger at McDonald's and you open up to one another, a father-son scene. So beautiful. The episode where, your love of your life passes and you have to deal with that. And that scene of you on the beach with the fireworks is absolutely extraordinary. The earlier scenes where you're talking about what happened to Timmy, your brother who had drowned. And they go back to the cemetery and they're trying to explain it to Buddy. And just really, these are things that happen in our lives. When you watch that series, it's not really, other than maybe the Pinto, it's not really dated in terms of the topic, the feeling, the love, and the warmth. You can apply all of those lessons and the interactions to today. It has legs in such a beautiful way. And that's because of all of you, past and present.
Yes, I think you're right. I do believe you're right. We gave opportunities to so many actors who were just starting out. Tommy Lee Jones, Michael J. Fox. The list goes on from there.
Helen Hunt,
We were so fortunate to have such talented, wonderful, lovely people come and visit us for an episode. You mentioned Henry Fonda earlier, and there he is.
There he is.
He was our last grandfather. We had, it was a running joke. We had Jimmy had a different father every season. Yes, it turned out to be that way. And Henry was our last. And he was our greatest, of course. We were working with this living legend, this international icon. Henry Fonda was known everywhere. This magnificent actor who had had this incredible career, was lauded, looked up to, praised, and here he was with us. And the reason he was with us, Joanne Woodward, wonderful actress and Paul Newman's wife, she was a fan of the show and wrote to Leonard and to Nigel McKeon and told them how much she loved the show and how much she would love to be able to direct an episode. Well, when she finally got the opportunity to do that, we needed a grandfather for this story. And Joanne said, well, wait a second. I know a few people. Let me make a couple calls. And one of the people that she called was Henry Fonda, who immediately said, yes, I'd love to do it. And Henry Fonda came and did our show. Now, Henry was so hard of hearing that he needed hearing aids. And in those days, there were eyeglasses that you could get that had hearing aids in the stems. And Henry had those kind of glasses.
Yeah.
And but he didn't like to wear them too often when he was working. So what he would do is learn not only his lines, but everyone else's lines as well. And he could read lips, so he would know when to speak and when not to speak. And it was quite wonderful to watch him work. And I'll just tell one last story about Henry and about the show. We were working in a place, the Palisades Park near the Pacific Ocean, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And it was a windy day. And Henry and I had become quite friendly. And I just thought it was so great to be able to talk with Henry Fonda.
Yeah. Is that the scene with you and Buddy and Henry?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And it was a windy day, and Henry looked over and saw a family trying to light. There were barbecues in the park, and this family was trying to get their barbecue started so that they could have their lunch. And Henry turned to me and he said, Gary, come with me. So I'm not going to say no to Henry Fonda. And I trailed after him, and he led me to the barbecue and this other family. And he said, here, give me a try. Let me try to light this. And lo and behold, he did. He got it lit and said, okay, go ahead, have your lunch. And he turned around and started walking away. And he turned to me and he said, yeah, that's the way you start a barbecue. I'll never forget that. We walked back and walked into the scene and did our work. But that's the way you start a barbecue, Gary. And I'll never forget it. And I'll never light a barbecue the same way.
The same way, right? The life lessons that you learn
Yes. Yeah.
on that series. Really tremendous walk down memory lane on so many different levels. Before we wrap, there was a question. You used the neighborhood so much, the sidewalks, the road, the house. I always thought about when you were backing out, you guys were always backing out of that curvy driveway, the neighbors that were right across the street, were they like inside watching, peeking through? Were the neighbors, did they embrace the filming of the show right there in Pasadena on that road? Because we always wondered about the house next door and the house over here. Were the people really in there watching and enjoying what they were? Oh my God, there's Gary Frank. There's Sada. There's Kate Lawrence. There's Kristy McNichol.
Yeah. Carol, you would know more about that.
The neighbors.
We gave on either side, we gave them money and we always invited them all to lunch. So all the neighbors surrounding. And, we would have because we would have parked our trucks across the street. So all the surrounding neighbors, we gave them, a stipend and always invited them to lunch. But there was always, they'd find out we were in the neighborhood and you'd like a block over or behind the house, you'd hear all of a sudden, lawnmowers going and and so we'd have to send an AD or a PA around to give them, $20 to stop.
Don't mow your lawn yet.
Exactly. So, but everybody else, we just always invited lunch, and that just was wonderful to them, just to be included. And we were very respectful also of the neighborhood. We didn't abuse it. And that's just kind of like the way we did things.
And what I was meaning to ask, because I know I've always wondered this, the people that owned the house themselves, what was it like working with them? Because, you used the house quite a bit for those exterior shots. And then, of course, the rest done in the studio. And the way it was done, the studio portions, you envisioned that's what the inside of that house looked like. It was so beautifully, cohesively done. What were they like to work with, the people that actually owned that property?
Well, they were great too, and a lot of times they'd be away, or the kids were at school, or they'd go to work, and again they would come join us for breakfast, at the truck, and they really enjoyed it, and they were just always very gracious, and we did, like, we'd use the house inside to put lights, to make entrance and exits, that kind of thing, and they were just very gracious about it, and again, I think because we were respectful of their property, and it was only to our advantage. I mean, if we didn't respect it, we weren't going to be using it.
It started where they didn't have the lights at the end of the driveway with the gate, and then later episodes there were these lights at the end of the gate. Was that something that you guys added, or did they add for you?
We added them.
I always wondered. I said, that's a nice touch to have the.
It's just, because we were always lighting it. Well, where's that light coming from? Our fans, as they are now, they know every little discrepancy.
Every little thing like that. The mailbox is over here, then it's over here. So many incredible episodes we could go on. Doug losing his eyesight, and that wonderful talk with Willie about everything and what may happen, and just so many beautiful moments. Really, truly, this has been a blessing, and hopefully not the last time. I say to all the guests, we keep the porch light on for everybody. I started this series as an extension. I started it actually during the pandemic as an extension of my professional work in television and radio to stay connected with everybody. And it's really, truly a blessing and an honor to be talking to all of you, Elayne and Carroll and Gary, of course, our dear friend Carolyn, and in spirit, Louise, who's still enjoying that burger and shake with TJ Latimer. Tell her she's welcome here anytime. And we want to remind everybody of this very, very special event. And we're going to keep mentioning it leading up to it. And this will be archived, this episode as well. There is that family TV reunion coming up. You see it all on your screen there. And again, get your tickets. You won't want to miss it. You get a chance to meet these lovely folks from our childhoods and so much more. But also Kristy McNichol will be there too. Louise Foley, who is Audrey Pfeiffer, will be there. nightofdreams.com. And it's really a beautiful event. One of many that Carolyn and her team put together, really for her, because she loves meeting these people too, but for all of us to come together and celebrate things that really mean a lot in our lives. And television has played such an important role in our lives, and so have all of you. Beautiful people, epic conversation. I feel like I've been a part of that house and that family in Pasadena, and I knew Willie would take it the hardest. That right, proper goodbye. I can identify in so many different levels, and so many of our viewers have been commenting throughout, thanking all of you, wishing all of you continued success. We call our viewers our Jim Masters Show Lovities, because I said during the pandemic, the show has a lot of light, love, and levity. And one time I said it too fast, and I said it has a lot of light, levity. Somehow I combined love and levity together. And they jumped in on it, and they said, guess what? We're now your lovities. So there you are. A lot of folks loving all of you and showering you with love. And thanks so much, Carol and Gary, Elayne and Carolyn, for spending time with me and all of us. You've been very generous with your time. We love having you here. I hope we all get a chance to stay in touch. And if you want to pop on for like 20 minutes and just have a cup of coffee or Kate's famous tea with us, come by and see us again, okay? And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you. I'll start with you, Elayne. It was a blessing to have you here, Elayne.
Thank you. It's wonderful seeing you guys, all of you.
Yes.
Carol, it was wonderful having you here as well. Thank you very much. And for all you did behind the scenes to make that series happen.
I was very blessed and continue to be. It was a family. So I really enjoyed and had a great time. Thank you for having us.
And you have a wonderful husband too. Yeah, it's a
lot
lot of bonuses of that series. And Gary, Frank, Willie. My
Yeah.
sister and I actually have this running thing back and forth where she calls me Willie, I call her Nancy. We text each other. She's in Florida. We do this whole thing. I'm Jimmy Willie. Gary, you're
Yes.
really incredible. Thanks so much. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have and all of our viewers.
Oh, yes, indeed. It's been grand, Jim, and I really appreciate being here. Thank you so much for giving us the time to be together.
Yes.
The pleasure is all mine. And Carolyn, my dear friend, thank you as well for joining us and celebrating great television and the people that made it happen for all of us and keeping the memories alive. Carolyn, you're very special to us, and we love having you here as well, Carolyn.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. And everybody come to the event October 20th. There are a few seats left. And Jim, you should make your way out sometime and come to one of these.
Yes, absolutely. I got to fly west and come out and see you guys.
Yes.
I want to show that graphic again. There it is, folks. Make sure you go. It really is going to be something special. And these lovely folks you see here, and Louise and Kristy will be there as well. nightofdreams.com. Gang, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic. And I wish I had the sound of the dog barking in the background. Well, you had it. See, that you had it to make it authentic, didn't you, Carol?
That's exactly
that
what I
was
did.
on purpose.
Yes.
Wherever
Absolutely.
Carol is, she knows how to get the dog barking wherever it is. That's
So
her
sorry
trademark.
for that. Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
guys. You're the best. You be well and take care, okay? We love you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Elayne, it was great seeing you. Bye-bye now.
Great seeing you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And Carolyn, thank you for joining us as well, my friend. It was great seeing you. Congratulations on everything as well. And
Thank
I'll
you.
mention, when I wrap up, I'll continue to mention
Okay,
Night of
thanks.
Dreams. All right. Thanks for being with us. And Carol, thank you for being with us. And Gary, you're the best. Really love this conversation.
Thank you very much. Me as well. Thank you.
You be well. Take care, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Incredible. And Elayne popped in again. Thanks, Elayne and Gary and the whole gang. All right. Wow. Let me show you this again, folks. There it is. This is very, very special. We've been showing this during the show. It is the family TV show reunion. You see it on the screen there. Get your tickets. You're not going to want to miss this. This is a labor of love. And Carolyn Peterson, our dear friend, putting this together for all of you. And get yourself there. There are some tickets left. This is going quickly. The Desi Luke kids, that was a blast. Everybody, Tina Cole was there, and Larry Matthews, and Keith Thibodeau was there, who was Little Ricky. And our dear friend of our show, Stanley Livingston, of course, from My Three Sons, was a part of that as well. And John Provost, Timmy from Lassie was there, and it was a hit. And I've heard, so many people just reaching back out to us, just saying they absolutely loved it. So you're going to love that too. And there is another one too that she's working on, and that is with Chips. Yeah, the gang from Chips. You remember that on NBC. Stay tuned. We'll probably do something wonderful with that as well. But boy, do we thank the gang for joining us here as well. Louise was going to be with us, but we think she got called away. She was working. She's in Texas. And hopefully we'll have her back too. You see her on the bottom of your screen there on the left, right next to Buddy. She played Audrey Pfeiffer. However, she will be at the event as well. So you're going to want to make sure you get those tickets. And I mentioned something that I was going to show for you just towards the very, very end. And that was that when I was on a television shoot in California not that long ago for my TV work, I said there were two houses that I had to go see. I had to go find them, you know what I mean? From my childhood, teen years and all. And one was the Brady Bunch house because friends of mine at HGTV were working on the renovation and turning that house back into well, actually, that was just a facade that was used for the series. The rest was filmed at the Paramount lot. However, they spent a fortune on taking the entire house and turning it into the actual Brady Bunch house inside and out. It was epic. The other house, I said, if I have time before I have to fly back east, I've got to find that beautiful house that was on Family, one of my favorite shows of all time and of my family's. And I have to go find it. And I'm digging through, try to find it, the address and everything else in Pasadena. And we actually got I got a chance to find it. Now, of course, I didn't want to, people live in that house, so you don't want to go up to the house and knock on doors or anything. We just wanted to drive by and maybe take a quick photo. So I did that. And it's very short. It's like, 12 seconds. But here we are at the wonderful house that was used for the series Family. Hey everybody, Jim Masters here. We're in Pasadena, California. We're on Milan Avenue, and this is the house where the TV series Family was filmed. The exterior shots: Sada Thompson, James Broderick, Kristy McNichol, Gary Frank, Meredith Baxter Birney, Quinn Cummings. That's the actual house, 1230 Milan Avenue in Pasadena. But on the TV series, it was Holland Street. Really cool. Here in Now you see how beautiful that house is. You may remember that in the series they had the fence and there were shrubs and there were more trees, which was actually perfect for filming the series because they had some seclusion there, which was terrific. It was great they had the seclusion so they can do the front yard scenes, the backyard scenes. But that's pretty much what that house looks like today, and it's stunningly beautiful. And I think it sold for several $1 million recently, but that's that house. And that house was also used in movies and other things as well. But there's a little bonus there for you, a little surprise. We got a chance to actually see that house that you saw on television right then and there every time you saw the iconic series Family. One more time, I want to tell you about the event that's coming up. This is really something special. It is Night of Dreams, and it's going to be something very special. A lot of dreams are going to be fulfilled as you get a chance to meet Gary. And Elayne will be there as well, the original Nancy Lawrence from the miniseries of Family. And Kristy McNichol will be there, who was Buddy Lawrence. And Louise Foley will be there, who was Audrey Pfeiffer, her friend. Nightofdreams.com is that website, gang. You're going to absolutely love that. So check that out. And boy, did we love doing this for all of you, wherever you're watching around the world. Thanks so much. Yes, that's right. That's the house. It's on Milan Avenue in Pasadena. I see your comments coming in. And thanks for all of the comments that you enjoyed this episode. I really appreciate this, gang. I know it would bring back memories. Kathleen Walker in New York City says, what a great show. Thank you, Jim. Thank you as well, everybody, for all of the kindness, and really, really beautiful seeing all of you here. So good stuff. We thank our very special guests for joining us, and we thank all of you. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to love yourself. Very important to do that. And come see us again for more great episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live series. If you enjoyed it, give this episode a like on our YouTube channel. Thumbs up, like. We would love that. Share this episode on your social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and leave a comment. What's your favorite Family episode? Or maybe some of the other things that some of our stars have been a part of over the years, some of these other iconic series, but especially with Family. What were some of your favorite moments from that iconic series? So again, come see us again. We love having you here. And thanks to all of our guests. And thank you for being a part of our family on the Jim Masters Show. This is Jim Masters. Take care and be well. And cheers.